guys, it's Griffin and welcome back to my YouTube channel. For today's video, I'm doing something that I haven't done in such a long time and I'm really nervous but also excited and a lot of emotions surrounding this. So basically, I wanted to bring back my true crime series. I had a lot of fun doing that and I felt like I was actually helping in some way bring some of these cases to light, working with family members, all those different things. So I really wanted to bring that back to my YouTube channel. So welcome to my first true crime video back. I'm actually partnered with Hunt a Killer for this video, and if you guys don't know what Hunt a Killer is, it's this awesome subscription service for solving your own case. And I think that that's super dope because personally I would love to be able to solve all these cases that I look into and that I cover, but I don't get all the information like police officers do. But this gives you the opportunity to do that, and so I'm going to show you guys a sneak peek inside episode 3 because the coolest part that I want to show you is that it comes with like real props. So this is like a little coin purse, and inside of it there's like a movie ticket and all these little things inside of it. I think it's so cool that it comes with real props because I've done some of these before with different brands and I honestly don't see a lot of really cool like thought going into it. It's awesome, it seems fun, but you can tell it's a lot of stock images and like everything's just super copy paste, it feels like. But this, like, everything in it is like good quality. Like, it also has like different things. Like, look at this. This is a genuine poster, so like if I wanted to hang this up on my wall after, I can. But I think it's so cool that they like give you like actual quality products. Basically, you can get one box at a time and solve it gradually as each month passes, or you can do what I do and decide to get them all at once so that you can just solve them all in one sitting. But yeah, there's a lot of really cool documents and everything in these boxes, so if you guys think that you have what it takes to hunt a killer, then use my code Griffin for 20% off of all their products. Without further ado, let's get into today's video. So with this case in particular, it's been on my mind non-stop since I first heard about the case in 2017. I don't know if any of you are as into true crime as I am, but if I find a case that like really intrigues me, I'll constantly be looking at it for updates, and as far as I can tell, since 2017 there haven't been too many updates in this case, and so I thought it would be a good idea to bring it to light again since it's been a minute since it's been in the media's attention. Today we're covering the unfortunate disappearance of Elaine Park. When Elaine went missing January 28th of 2017, she was 20 years old living in Glendale, California. She was sort of described as like your average teenage spunky girl, and if you look at her and look at the type of things that she was into, you can tell that she was absolutely in love with the arts. All different forms of it. She was not only in a couple of movies and shows that you may have seen yourself, but she was also super into poetry, dance, and musical theater. Some of the things that you might have seen her in are Mad TV, ER, Desperate Housewives, Crazy Stupid Love, and Role Models. Before her disappearance, she had plans to attend Los Angeles Pierce Community College to pursue her acting career. Now getting into her love life, from what I can tell, it seemed a little complicated. She was in an on-again, off-again relationship with the son of a very well-known Hollywood businessman. A close family friend of Elaine's said that if anything, it may have been more of a friendship at this point, but there were still some ties of not really being sure of what entirely was going on. A lot of the different articles that I read said that that was her boyfriend, and a lot of other ones said that it wasn't her boyfriend, while other ones said it was her on-again, off-again. So you really just have no idea the standing of their relationship at this point. All of that aside, her on-again, off-again boyfriend, Divine, was the last to see her alive. And for the sake of this video, I'm going to call him her boyfriend just so that we can keep it all very clear. I don't have to say on-again, off-again every single time. I'm going to call him her boyfriend, even though that might not have been the case. We just don't really know. So I think with every case, it's really important to... I've never filmed one of these videos with someone behind me or like anyone around me, so it's like kind of nerve-wracking. What?
Why are you talking to a camera?
Stop!
Hi mom, hi dad, it's me, Red. Not Dylan, Red.
I think it's important to know a full history of Elaine and her well-being prior to her disappearance. Susan, Elaine's mother, did state that Elaine had some issues and was struggling with the fact that her parents were getting a divorce. And although Elaine was enrolled in classes at Woodland Hills, she had recently stopped attending her classes the semester before her disappearance. And on top of all of that, she had been laid off from her job at a local restaurant. Personally, if I had all of this stuff going on, I'd be so mentally drained. That's a lot for anyone to take on. So Susan had kind of suggested that Elaine struggled with bouts of depression given everything going on, but that couldn't have possibly been a reason for her disappearance, that she wouldn't have run away or committed suicide, but we'll get into that a little bit later. For now, let's get into the time of the disappearance. Friday, January 27th, Elaine asked her mom Susan to borrow $20, which she insisted that she'd be returning to her the next day. Then Elaine went over to her boyfriend's house for a movie slash potentially a date night. She lived in a small neighborhood called La Crescenta in Glendale, California, and drove her 2015 Honda Accord to his neighborhood in Calabasas, California, about a 26-mile drive. So something to note about this boyfriend is that he lives in a very well-kept, wealthy community. It's a gated community that has camera footage of each car that comes in and out of the property, as well as most of the houses having their own surveillance footage. The footage at the front gate gets both the make and the model of every car that enters and exits, as well as their license plates. Elaine and her boyfriend's plan for the night was to go to a 10:45 p.m. movie and then have Elaine stay the night. They left around 10 p.m. for the movie and returned again around 1 a.m. Her boyfriend's house had its own surveillance footage, so here's the footage of them leaving and heading out to the movies. This shows the couple getting in an Uber and leaving. I'm not sure if it means anything, but I did notice that Elaine was walking further ahead of him and at a rather fast pace, which personally that's something that I do if I'm upset. Then the next time that the couple is seen is around 1 a.m. when another Uber drops them back off at Divine's house. While any security camera footage does remain important to any case, this footage in particular isn't as important as the rest of it just because this is them getting home. This isn't the last known footage of her, but something to note in this is that when she gets out and she's walking to the house, she's walking in front of him at a faster pace and her hair is swinging from side to side. Personally, that's something, like if I'm walking and I'm mad, my hair, if it's in a ponytail, is swinging left and right like a horsetail. Like, I cannot control it. So keep an eye on the way that she's walking and let me know if you guys think that she seems like she's mad or anything like that in the comments below. They go inside and presumably fall asleep. It's 1 a.m., it's a little late, they just had a movie night, you know, probably falling asleep. At least that's what the story indicates. However, what happened from the time that they got back at 1 a.m. to when Elaine woke up is a complete mystery to us. We don't know if there was actually any sleeping involved, we don't know what happened, we have no idea what happens behind closed doors, and unfortunately that's the information that hasn't been shared. As far as I can tell, it feels like the way that they're telling the story is indicating that Elaine was asleep. It doesn't necessarily mean that's what happened. He's the only witness, so he could have just told them something that maybe didn't necessarily happen. Maybe they were talking the whole time. Maybe they did sleep. You don't know. There's a couple of hours where we don't know what's going on, and presumably Elaine is asleep. I couldn't find anywhere if her boyfriend had stated what time that they fell asleep, but I did see that the next morning, Saturday the 28th, he stated that they woke up around 4 a.m. in an interesting state. So her boyfriend said that around 4 a.m. Elaine woke up in a super panicked state, appeared to be having a panic attack, shaking, singing, and wanting to go home. Apparently he tried to convince her to stay there as long as possible, but she didn't want to stay at all and she got up and left. One thing that's super interesting about all of this to me is that she woke up at 4 a.m. but wasn't seen leaving his house until 6 a.m. So what happened in those 2 hours of trying to convince her to stay? Why was she able to stay for 2 hours in this complete panicked, shaking and singing state, but then all of a sudden 6 a.m. rolls around and she's gotta go? I just don't understand why she would be able to stay for the 2 hours and not 2 more hours. Like, why she suddenly had to leave at 6 a.m., why she didn't just calm down and go back to sleep, or why it wasn't like she woke up and left immediately. Because personally, I've woken up at a friend's house, had a panic attack and wanted to leave, so I left right then and there. I didn't wait 2 hours after talking to someone and potentially trying to get me calmed down and then leave. Like, I leave when I want to go. Like, and when I want to go, if I'm having a panic attack, that's when I want out. So this camera footage shows Elaine leaving his house at 6:05 in the morning. Okay, so as you guys can see, this is the footage of Elaine leaving his house and walking over to her car. You can tell she unlocks her car with the lights turning on. She turns around the corner, and then you see something that is a little weird to me, so we're gonna zoom in and take a closer look. So first you can see Elaine's lights turning on, and then if you look to the gate to the right, there appears to be another car that has nothing to do with her car that's lights turn on as well. When her car lights turn on, it doesn't affect anything in that little fence at all, but then all of a sudden when she turns the corner, there's another car turning on its lights or unlocking or something of the sorts right there. Then when you look at the timestamp from the front gate of the footage of her car leaving the front gate, it reads 7:14 in the morning. So this is the footage of Elaine leaving the gated community, and as you can see, the front of her car has peeked into the frame, the gate is about to open, and then you'll see her license plate, make, and model of the car. But as you can also tell, there is no proof of who is actually driving the car. That's an entire hour and 9 minutes of unaccounted for time. And when you look at Google Maps to see where his house is versus the gate, the front gate, it wouldn't even take you that long to walk there. Some people believe that the front gate may have not changed their clocks when daylight savings happened. So the last known footage of Elaine was her leaving his house at 6:05 in the morning. And then she isn't seen again for another hour and 9 minutes, and this time it's at the front gate of his community, and it's not even proof if it's actually her driving. Some people do believe that the discrepancy in the time from when she left his house to the time when she got to the gate could have to do with the fact that the front gate never changed their clocks back from daylight savings. Daylight savings occurs twice a year, in March and again in November. If it was January, the last time that the clock should have changed would have been in November, and it should have been changed an hour backwards. Although it is possible they forgot to change the time on the clocks for daylight savings, I also am having some hesitation with believing that because it was an extremely wealthy gated community and it had been 3 months since daylight savings had passed. And if this community is as wealthy as it seems and has as much security as they talk about having, then wouldn't they be on top of all of their security protocols? But we'll touch back on the timing in a moment. When Susan, Elaine's mom, spoke of the footage that she and police received from the family of Elaine that night, the footage cuts off at exactly 6:05 in the morning, the second that you see Elaine exit the camera. So literally the second that Elaine is not seen on camera anymore, the footage completely stops, ends, is done. Like there was nothing else to show. But it took her so long to be able to even get to the front gate. Like what if she went back inside to grab something? What if, you know, I feel like if there was nothing to hide, they should have been able to give absolutely all the footage to police and to the family. Now keep that in mind as we go into the hour and 9 minutes of unaccounted for time. So as I said, the police and others are suggesting that maybe the front gate had never changed their clock back from daylight savings. So instead of it being 7:14 in the morning, it was actually 6:14 in the morning, which instead of an hour and 9 minutes unaccounted for, it was only 9 minutes unaccounted for. Though that definitely is a more realistic time span, 9 minutes to get to the front gate rather than an hour and 9 minutes, it still was a lot of time. Looking at the Google Maps, this is the distance she had to drive, 0.2 miles. Even if she was driving at 10 miles per hour, she would have made it to the gate in exactly 1 minute and 12 seconds. So why did it take her 9 minutes to get there? I know it's not a ton of time, but I don't see what would take her 9 minutes to get there at all. Or why the camera footage from the front of her boyfriend's house would just completely cut off as soon as she's seen exiting the camera. The other thing to note about this entrance of the gated community is that you really only see the license plate, the make, and the model of the car. And while we can confirm that it was Elaine's car, we can't confirm that it was Elaine actually driving it. There's no footage of the person in the car, and if it took her 9 minutes to get there, a lot can happen in 9 minutes, and someone else could easily have driven her car out the exit. Nonetheless, that was the last Elaine was ever seen. Later that day, Susan had responded to her daughter Elaine's text from earlier on and didn't get a response. Elaine also didn't show back up at home, but at first her mom didn't think too much of it given Elaine's private nature. Then the next day came around and Elaine hadn't been seen or heard from. At this point, it seemed really off that she was completely off the grid. So Susan went to the Glendale Police Department to file a missing persons report, and they suggested waiting a day because Elaine was 20 years old and they didn't know if maybe Elaine wanted to go off on her own and come back. They were just suggesting that maybe Elaine wanted a break and that she'd be back. So they told Susan to wait a day. After another sleepless night, Susan just couldn't take it anymore. So Monday, January 30th, an official missing persons report was placed. Upon reporting this, police quickly just told her not to worry and that Elaine should be in contact pretty soon. However, those opinions quickly changed. Thursday, February 2nd of 2017, Elaine's car was found parked on the side of the Pacific Coast Highway, just south of Coral Canyon Road in Malibu. The location was approximately 20 miles from her boyfriend's boyfriend's house and surrounded by a bunch of homes and businesses, none of which had surveillance footage. It was noticed by a sheriff's deputy who ran the plates and found a connection. No one is quite sure how long the car was left there, but it was left unlocked with the keys still in the ignition. Some reports say that the car battery was dead, but the lights were still on. Still in the car was Elaine's driver's license, makeup, money, cell phone, backpack, and laptop. Something that's really interesting to me is that her car sat there for so long not being found. And that's an extremely popular highway with cars constantly going up and down it. Shouldn't someone have seen it and thought something of it, especially if the lights were on? After all, it should have been sitting there since she left Divine's house, which was a couple of days earlier. Like, I just don't understand how someone at one of the houses or businesses didn't notice that car just sitting there for days on end when it's a pretty local community in Malibu. A lot of people know each other locally there and probably recognize that some cars are visiting the area and visiting beaches, but if the same car is sitting in the same spot with the lights on for days on end, does that not say something could be wrong there? After discovering her car, bloodhounds, drones, and divers were brought in to search the surrounding area. And after just one day of searching and no sign of Elaine, the search was suspended. That's when police switched over to solely interviewing friends and family. Pretty quickly, the police stated that they weren't considering Elaine's boyfriend as a suspect because he was being pretty cooperative, and right away, Elaine's mother had a few issues with Glendale PD. Not only did they dismiss him extremely quickly, but they also failed to conduct a search of the boyfriend's family home and the hilly land surrounding it. It was only because of public pressure that the police finally did a search of the family's home and surrounding area, and this was months after this had occurred. So any critical evidence could have easily been wiped away. And with that being said, we don't know how well they actually searched. If it took them that long to do it and it was because of public telling them to do it, we don't know how in-depth this search actually was. Being very upset with how this situation was so obviously grossly mishandled by the police, Elaine's mom decided to hire a private investigator. Unfortunately, despite any and all efforts, no new witnesses, information, or any leads have come forward. Something that I personally haven't looked into too much, but I did find some information on when I was looking into Elaine's case, that it was partially Glendale's police station as well as Malibu's looking into Elaine's disappearance. And apparently the person who is under command and in charge of Elaine's case at the Malibu Police Department had also covered up 7 shootings in Malibu. I do know that that piece of information is accurate, however, I did not spend a ton of time looking into this. So if any of you guys are interested in that, I will link all the information to that below and you guys can continue looking into that. But with all that being said, let's get into the theories. The first theory is that Elaine possibly ran away. This seems highly unlikely to me, especially considering all of the things that she would probably want with her while running away were left in her car. And in addition to that, her family doesn't believe that she would run away. She did have a very private nature, but it wasn't the kind where she would completely cut people out, and she was still extremely responsive, especially to her family. Theory number 2 is it's possible Elaine was abducted from her car. Perhaps Elaine was trying to escape her panic attack, so she decided to drive to Malibu and relax at the beach for a little bit. While she was there, maybe she got abducted. Although anything is possible, I kind of doubt this just because the PCH is an extremely popular highway and there's always people going up and down it. Even if it's just 2 cars at a time, there's always cars going up and down it. So it's extremely rare for it to be empty, and I do believe that someone would have seen something on such a popular highway. Either one of the homes, business owners, or cars driving by. Especially at that time of day when people are normally headed to work. Also, the bloodhounds that were brought in to search for Elaine only were able to trace her scent just a few feet away from the car, which could have just been the car itself releasing her scent into the air. If she had gone slightly down the hill into the water, not only then would people still have been able to see it from the freeway, there also would have been a scent leading her there, and there was nothing. Others theorized that Elaine had possibly taken her own life. Given her mental state that morning, history with depression, and lack of evidence, this is kind of what a lot of people do believe. Her family does dispute this and does not believe that she would do something like this. And although it is possible that she would have done this, how would someone not have found something? I literally just don't. I understand that when people do that, there's like a lack of evidence, but there's absolutely nothing. It just doesn't make sense to me. I also, looking into this, don't think that that's something that Elaine would have done, in my opinion. The fourth and final theory is there's something that her boyfriend isn't telling us. I think it's pretty obvious that the situation surrounding her disappearance is extremely questionable. She was last seen in person by Divine, last seen leaving his home, and the property wasn't searched for months on end until there was enough public pressure to search the property, at which point all the evidence could have been completely cleared out. And we don't know exactly how big this search was, where if you look at a map of the property that he lived on, there's a big plot of land surrounding his home. On top of all of that, he didn't seem very concerned with what was happening. He may have been very cooperative with police, but failed to answer any of the family's questions, didn't make any public posts, talk about this situation anywhere, nor has he shown any sympathy. With his family's public popularity and the amount of money that they had, their support in this case would have been more than helpful. Given that theory, I kind of want to break it down a little bit more and explain some of the discrepancies in his story. So he stated that Elaine woke up in a panic state at 4 a.m., but she isn't seen leaving his house until 6 a.m. So what happened in those 2 hours, and why does she look so calm leaving his house? Then the camera footage cuts off as soon as she walks back to her car. It picks back up an hour and 9 minutes later, or 9 minutes later if we're including a daylight savings time change, at the front gate. His house is 6 houses away from the gate. That's definitely not a 9-minute or an hour and 9-minute drive. All the footage cuts off completely as soon as Elaine is seen getting in her car, which is questionable because that's all the footage that they gave to police, and that's all the footage that they gave to the family as well. There's also a few things that happen while watching the footage that just don't make sense to me, like little car lights turning on or potential movements, and the fact that you can't see who is driving her car out of the gated community, the fact that the property wasn't searched for months on end until it was enough public pressure to do so. This family has a lot of money and a lot of public popularity. I was looking into a few things, and I'm kind of a conspiracy theorist as well sometimes, it depends. But I was looking into different things, and I'm looking at my PC because it's right here to the left of me. I went onto the IMDb of her boyfriend's dad's page because he's a Hollywood producer, and he stopped doing any work in 2017. He did some work in between there, but it was contractual work that he was required to do because he had already signed a contract. It was a series or something along those lines. He pretty much stopped all of his work in 2017 and picked back up in 2020, where if you check Divine's social media, he did the same thing. Stopped doing any posting in 2017 and started back up again in 2020. Hi, so I'm editing the video right now and I realized that I forgot to kind of conclude what I was saying. So I just think that it's really strange that in 2017, the year that Elaine went missing, Divine and his father both like completely stopped doing anything, and then as everything sort of settled down, there's not as much about it in the news, no one's talking about it as much anymore, they pick their careers back up again. Something very weird to me, and I tried looking into it more and more, but I just felt myself going down rabbit holes. So if any of you guys look into that and find anything interesting, definitely let me know in the comments below. So this is a private fund of $140,000 put together, a reward for any information as to the whereabouts of Elaine Park, or the arrest and conviction of the person or persons responsible for her disappearance. The new anonymous tip line for this is 818-473-0611, and there's also a private encrypted email that you can send emails to at helpfindelaine@protonmail.com. Please help find Elaine Park and bring her home to her family. This case breaks my heart. Looking at Elaine, it feels like she's someone that I would potentially be friends with. She looks extremely friendly and like the type of person that I would want to hang out with. So it's really hard for me to see these cases and see something that so many people go through, and this situation just ended up so wrong. So like I said, if anyone has any information, definitely contact police. I will leave all the information below as well. Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you liked it. If you did, make sure to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe.
Do it! Sorry.
Holy f, that scared me. Also, if you guys want to check out Hunt to Killer, I will have a link for that down below. You can use code Griffin for 20% off. Kind of amazing. I would suggest that you check it out. Alright, I love you guys, and I will see you next time. Bye.